All right. Welcome, 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 you all. I know we are still getting our audio together and still getting logged in. So I want to make sure that you all can hear us, we can hear from you. So if you'll take just a moment to drop in the chat where you are from, and if you are associated with a chapter, go ahead and throw that in there. KC Mo in the house, okay? Kansas City chapter, Kansas City. Y'all representing. That's really great. Let's see. Mark Twain, love that. Lake of the Ozarks. We'll be seeing you all soon. Lewis and Clark. Okay, Columbia. I'm in the house. Got some of my Columbia folk here too. Springfield, Branson, Tri-State Lakes or Tri-Lakes. Awesome. St. Joseph. Okay. That is so awesome. So I know we will have a few people that will pile in as we get started, but this is going to be a jam-packed session, and I'm really looking forward to it. So I'm going to go ahead and intro you so we can hit the ground running. Um, Before I get that started, as we are going through the presentation, we will save the questions to the end as far as answering them. But if you just want to make sure that your question gets in there, and we want to make sure that your question gets in here too, go ahead and drop it in the Q&A spot. You'll be in the chat and you can communicate through the chat, but we really want your questions to be in the Q&A. So there's a box at the bottom of the screen that you can enter those in there. And once we get to the end of the presentation, we will try to answer as many as we can. But I just want to welcome you. My name is Cecily DeVise. I am the DEI director for Missouri SHRM. And we are so excited to give you this presentation, Leading Through Dialogue, Mastering Civil Conversations in the Workplace. As many of you know, the 1 Million Civil Conversations is an initiative that started March of last year. And so we just want to make sure that we provide opportunities for you all to learn about how to do those civil conversations really well. So we will be learning how to navigate through those, how to maintain respect, because that is so very important. And that's an important skill to grow as we're having any type of conversation. We want to talk about psychological safety, and just how we can handle those conversations the best that we can and leave with an understanding and maybe even some better ideas than we came into the conversation with. So today we are joined by Dr. Daryl Diggs Jr. He's an experienced educational leader dedicated to equity, inclusion, and reaching out to our greatest collective outcomes. He has co-founded several organizations that have been instrumental and intentional about gainful employment and inclusion. And he is currently the executive director of diversity, equity, and inclusion and accessibility for a special school district in St. Louis. He also serves as vice president of the diversity and workforce readiness team for SHRM of Greater St. Louis. So he's all in the family with us too. So I'm so excited to have him here and so excited for what he's going to share with us. So I will go ahead and let you take that away, Dr. Diggs.
All right. Good afternoon, MOSHRM. It's great to see each and every one of you. I see the chat populating. I see all the people and the attendees, jumping in. It is an honor, really quick, for me to be here, in the space. I do believe the greatest gift that we can give one another is time. So thank you for giving me at least 60 or so minutes of your time, today for us to have a deep conversation, but then also to add to each other's bucket, right? To add a page to each other's book as we're navigating workspaces that are very diverse. We're navigating conversations that could be even more diverse, but we do that in an inclusive spirit. So shout out to Cecily. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Miss Nicole. Thank you for allowing me to be in this place and space. So here we go. A little bit about me. I am part of the Greater St. Louis SHRM organization. Really excited and proud to be a part of that group. I do serve as the VP of Diversity and Workforce Readiness. And so what does that mean? What have we been able to accomplish in our short time together, and it's really been about connection. What can we do to build broader connections, to construct bridges across tough conversations, but then also bring people together. And so, in order to do that great and impactful work, it takes effort, it takes time, it takes partnership. And so, in this partnership that we all have together, I just want to say thank you for allowing us to be, together. And so, having said that, let's fly forward. In today's work, I want to be sure that we are very cognizant of one, why we're here, two, what we're going to talk about, discuss, and learn. And it is these four things as learning outcomes. Number one, what would it look like for us to deploy active listening, curiosity, where we're, leaning in, where we're maintaining that respectful posture. That way we can have a substantive and substantive conversation and get to the business need, right? It's all about the business and the bottom line, but also the people. We're going to talk about how to navigate tough conversations, how to be actionable. We're going to talk about the differences between an agreeable solution and then also acceptance, right? We're also going to talk about resolution. What does that really, really mean? And then the last two, we're going to apply a framework. I use three buckets to describe it. And then last but not least, we're going to get into some warning signs like, hey, what is a warning sign to let you know that a conversation is going way out in left field or that is not as beneficial as it could be, right? So think about this. In the workplace, whether it's small organization, big company, or somewhere in between, we more than likely spend more time with our colleagues and our employees than anywhere else, right? Specifically our family. And so if we're spending so much time at work, we may see Janet in accounting more than we're able to actually be with our families, right? But imagine this, if we're spending so much more time with individuals not connected to our family, we may need to have tools, systems, and structures to be able to handle and work through conversations that may go off the rails, that may go sideways. Instead of us, flying off the handle, how can we better manage that? How can we peak up our listening ears? That way, we're listening to the full story instead of what is kind to what we want to discuss. And so, team, having said that, where are we going to go today? We're going to talk about navigating difficult conversations, what makes them difficult, rather. Also, how to have a productive conversation. I'm gonna give you some tips, tricks, tools, ideas. I'm gonna give you some Jedi mind tricks, if you will. And then, hey, what does that look like to move towards resolution? And then, furthermore, practical application. There is a piece that I added today, less than about 2 hours ago. As I was coming back to the office, I was thinking, like, you know what? This might be something that the team might need to really piece through and work on in the space. And again, we're speaking about HR leaders working with the people, again, trying to achieve that bottom line. Something else, food for thought. You might want to have your device with you, your cell phone, if you will. I will have QR codes for you to scan, as well as I will put a lot of resources in the chat. So if you're at the desk, you have multiple screens, try to find a way to make sure that you can grab the links that we put in there because this will help you along in your place and space. So, team, here we go. I'm really excited to do this work with you. So, having said that, when it comes to navigating difficult conversations, many of us, or some of us, especially me, I believed at one point that navigating a conversation was like putting in an address and a location into my phone, right? Just very simple. Like our phones tell us exactly how long it'll take, the best distance and route to get there. It'll even give us options, whether we want to walk, drive, take a bike, all of those things. But we know that when it comes to having civil conversation or having a difficult dialogue or talking through tough topics is similar to this, right? How many of you have used or know what this is? That the huge trifold map that we used to use to find our highways, streets, but we also know there were some avenues that weren't on the map, right? This is similar to a civil conversation. This is similar to how we navigate those spaces. And so, team, having said that, what are those precipitating factors that cause us to need a roadmap where the roads diverge and there's a fork in the road and we can go left, right, center, or just all the way diagonal? Well, we know this to be true, that the precipitating factors to a conflict could arise in a lack of access. It could be our varied backgrounds that we have. It could be our lived experiences. It could be our stories. It could be the latest news feed, our perceptions of work ethic. It could be even more. It could be the polarization. It could be personality clashes. I mean, think about it. So many things could create the breadcrumbs that lead to massive conflict in the workspace. And again, I'm not talking about outside the workspace at this moment. Our implementation of policies, politics. Again, we mention this often in the education space, silos, right? Also the perspective or perception of lack of transparency. But we can go on, right? Anything can create an environment where there is conflict, but imagine if that conflict just lasts just into the future. Salary disparities, creative idea conflicts, all the things, all of these pieces can create an environment where there's some type of conflict that we have to work through. So, team, do me a favor. This is one of our first two options or ways for us to connect together. So, do me a favor, take out your phone, slide over to the camera, and either grab the QR code and answer this question, or you can go to your web browser, type in slido.com and put in the hashtag MOSHRM. So hashtag MOSHRM. And the question that I have for each and every one of you is this: what is the one word you would use to describe a feeling or impact of incivility on your team or in the workplace? So, what is that one word you would use to describe the feeling or impact of incivility? So, what would that be? All right. So, thank you for jumping in, whoever that first person was. Sad, disrespect. Good. Now, team, do me a favor. I may have selected for you to add more than just one response. So, please jump in. Go. Very good. Thank you. Fearful, discouraging, tense, unprotected, nice, avoidance. Thank you for putting that in there. Uncomfortable, deflating. Good, good. Thank you for doing this. Keep jumping in. Please add in those words. And again, I'm asking you to describe, a feeling or impact, right? The feeling that we have of all those precipitating factors. Can create an environment where we feel disrespected, where it could be hostile to have a conversation, intimidating. We may also internalize, what, through this conflict, I'm going to be unheard because the person that I report to or who reports to me, we may feel like we can't see each other for some reason. And now we have misunderstandings, right? So again, team, thank you for doing that work and doing that with me. Now, keep in mind, as you see what's on the screen at this moment, the top three that pop out for me right now is disrespect, anger, rude, right? Again, I can see uncomfortable, unheard, misunderstood. Very good. Now, out of all of these words, out of all of these feelings and impacts, we know that there is a profound shift that happens in the workplace environment. Here, let's talk about it. On the screen right now, I took a wide array of data from SHRM organization, Myers-Briggs Company, CCP Global, CIPD, and this is how they view or how they have rectified or seen impacts of conflict in the workplace, disrespect, not being understood, not being valued, right? They describe that interpersonal conflict is almost 38% of employees out of 10 employees in the UK, right? They report experiencing some form of interpersonal conflict at work annually. Now, this includes isolated disputes or incidences, right? Hitting at 29. But if we keep going, this also impacts turnover and culture. Conflict also impacts workloads, increases stress. Imagine this 49% of the workplace conflict happens as a result of personality clashes and egos. And again, that's not even talking about the holiday that's coming up of Thanksgiving. So, there lies a conflict, right? Everybody has a Uncle Steve or Aunt Sally that is always going to come in with some precipitating factor to conflict. Now, let's go a little bit deeper. Workers who rate their workplaces as uncivil are three times more likely to be unsatisfied in their job, and two times as likely to leave said job. And so, with this data and then connecting the words that you all put into the space, it kind of makes sense, right? That this is the outcome of conflict in the workplace. Let me give you a little bit more. So here, now we're talking about groups of people or age bands of individuals. We're 91% of 18 to 24-year-olds, right? And also 94 of 25 to 34. They report burnout. And furthermore, that deeply then connects to mental health. And also 48% of us, team, report increased stress. So if we connect the precipitating factors to the data, to this, you are still expected to lead, change, culture, and talent strategy. Imagine that. So then lies the question, well, Diggs, like, okay, I can see the breadcrumbs. All right, I have the data. Okay. I know there's a financial impact to conflict in the workspace. But how am I expected to still do these three things and lead in this space? And so, with that, we have to have a deeper conversation. Okay, how do we do it? What kind of tools can we put into place? What type of strategies or things that we should be looking for in order to combat and to work through workplace conflict? And so, to do that, there is a white paper that's out there through SHRM and the Bamboo HR group of 10 HR stereotypes. And then I'm going to put that link in the chat in just a moment, but there are some stereotypes that are at play when it comes to having a civil conversation and that stereotype that happens for HR leaders. So let me talk about that for just a moment. So imagine this. Have you ever been stereotyped in the workplace as being almost a double agent, right? Where, yeah, you're in HR, but you also may be really working for somebody else. Well, sometimes HR has been seen as spies, right? Or who weaponize information for a private purpose. Well, if that is a stereotype that you may have witnessed or experienced or may have been leveraged, towards you, there is a way to work through that stereotype to then get to clarity instead of putting on the gloves and going to war, right? If I were to make a suggestion for anyone in this space, all 55 of us, I would say this. If we're stereotyped as being a double agent, or a company lackey or a gatekeeper, I would do this. I would say, like, hey, you know what? Yes, we prioritize confidentiality and we also practice clear communication. But again, what is that sentence starter to really explain that? Here's the nugget. I would say this if I were in that space. Hey, you know, we need to work through this conversation. When is the best time to do it? Now we're setting a stage. And then the second way to lean further into this conversation while we're being stereotyped or typecast would be this. I want to understand your perspective. Tell me more. Because here's the thing, we get to stereotypes when individuals create a story about human resources in their head. And so for us to have tools to work through those are going to be greatly important and super duper impactful. And I'm going to give you a few more sentence starters to do that. And so, team, in just a moment, I'm going to put something in the chat that I want you to um, hold on to if you can. And so it is this, it's called the art of questions. So I'm gonna put that in there, paste. All right, there you go. So if you were to grab this, this is a list of questions that can help us get to the art of what the matter is when we have issues or conflict within the workplace. And as you look through this, and again, shout out to Perchin Consulting, they do a phenomenal job. And so in this work, what you might want to do when there's issues, you want to have a question that you can pull out of your back pocket that you feel comfortable with. For me, the question that I used, or the sentence starter that I used to work through conflict in the workplace, I kind of use this at home, so don't tell my wife, is that I use this one. Are you ready? Tell me more about that. Another one I use quite often is, so what I heard you say. If you look at the sheet, whenever you get a moment, you can also say, hey, help me understand. What would it look like for us to work through this today? Let me summarize what I heard. There's one more that I think that is gold on this sheet that you have in the chat is this. What would it look like if? we did nothing. Because sometimes in the workplace, there is a tension based off of a procedure, a process, a system, or a structure, right? And if we can make the issue about the problem and not the person, we are guaranteed to find the solution a lot quicker than if it was about an individual, right? So we have to find a way to navigate through that. And so through that resource, what I would encourage all of you to do is to download it and print it and then highlight the pieces that feel most comfortable for you and then practice it, use it, because we know conflict is going to happen. Now, having said that, there are some things I want for you to avoid when you're in the moment of incivility, right? And it's two things. Number one, please avoid a question that could be answered in a yes or no fashion. Avoid that. That instantly increases the tension. And then, second, what I would encourage all of us to do is do this: avoid a question that begins with why, because then that individual may feel like they're being belittled or being treated like a child. So avoid questions that start with why, and then broaden the question so that it's not simply a yes or no. And again, this piece right here works great for the workplace and then also for your personal relationships. So, team, with those questions, let's continue down this path. A lot of times, as we're navigating tough conversations or issues within the workplace, we have a really hard time um, just being as objective as possible, right? I used to work in another place and space in a previous life, and it was always about subjective matters when it came to working through issues, and that created just more problems at the water cooler, and then the break room was literally on fire, right? And so, something that I would like to impress upon you is a way for us to be objective, but almost put it together in a formula. So, as you're navigating conflict, I'm going to ask for you to do three things. And actually, as I'm talking about this, I'm going to drop it into the chat because I want for you to have this resource as well. So, here we go. Let me get that, copy it, boom. I'm going to put it, boom, right there. All right. So, is to do this. As you're navigating conflict in the workplace, there's three things that you need to do. One, I would love for you to write down and be very specific when it comes to the organizational outcome that is impacted by the conflict. So, if you're in a place and space and your company creates, let's say, widgets, the company creates widgets, there's something that's happening in the workplace that's impacting our production of widgets. So, what is the organizational outcome that's being impacted? Well, we're not able to hit our marks of widget making because of the conflict. Okay, great. I wrote down the specific outcome, right, that's being impacted. Next, what are the observable behaviors that let us know that there's a problem? Well, let's say that you weren't able to meet your quarter earnings because the production became slow due to us not being able to create and make the widgets, and that is what's causing the organizational issue. But what is the conflict? And there lies the last part, in which I would encourage all of us to really, really think through when we're, creating this issue, is that okay, when it comes to the outcome that's desired, we must be collaborative in that space. It's going to take all of us together to get to our greatest solution. And so, team, having said that, in that resource that again that I just threw in the chat, I offer this to all of you to do a couple things. One, it leverages accountability as we're working with people, and it's objective. It's not about feelings, it's not about the yes or no, and it creates an environment where we're addressing the problem and not necessarily the person. And so, with that, I want to transition over to another thought. And here I want to give a framework, three big buckets that has been beneficial for me in navigating tense conversations or the precipitating factors that lead to conflict and clashes. And so, in these three buckets, again, I'll share the slides with you at the end, as well as some other resources. But in this moment, I just want you to jot down three statements because each statement is its own bucket. And as I go through each one, I'm going to expand that bucket as to why each one is valuable. Okay, so here we go. So the first one is this, active listening, yeah, it sounds simple, right, on the surface, but I'm gonna be honest with you. I am connected to St. Louis County in the work that I do, and we're not the most proficient at active listening, hearing each other because we have a narrative in our head that is so loud that we're ready to get it out. But if we're able to lean in and focus on, okay, what the individual is saying, then we can truly understand and then respond. And so there was a moment a couple years ago where we were sitting together trying to address this issue that was happening somewhere in education. And as we're talking, half the room thought the issue was A, the other half thought the issue was B. What was missing in that moment is that we weren't asking clarifying questions. Half of us were in our computers, the other half of us were in our phones, and we weren't paraphrasing. We weren't, clarifying what was happening. We were also multitasking and, responding defensively when we thought the idea was not one that we chose, right? And so if in the spirit of active listening, it looks like we're fully present and engaged. And so when somebody comes into your office and there's an issue or a problem that's between us that we're here to work through, one, I would encourage all of us to remove the distractions. For me, I put my phone in my book bag, and sometimes I may take off my watch because sometimes it buzzes. And then also, I may turn off notifications on my computer because all of those things give me the squirrel moment. And then I'm off to the next thing without fully listening. Something else I would like for you to think about is use positive body language, nonverbal cues. Something that I had to work through personally, team. And again, I feel comfortable saying this amongst, all 50 plus of you, is that I don't cross my arms anymore when I sit down and I have conversations because that gives off defensive vibes. And so just be mindful of that. Be mindful of your cues, your nonverbal behaviors, the idiosyncrasies. Just be careful because we want to always maintain a genuine connection with the other person. So that's bucket number one. Here we go. Bucket number two, empathy and understanding. And so with empathy, I'm just going to pull a page from Brene Brown and her work, with Dare to Lead. When we are navigating, this tough conversation, as we are on the roadmap trying to find the off ramp, um, empathy is super duper invaluable. And the reason why it is because our minds will become closed if we are feeling in fear. But if we are able to relieve ourselves of the fear and just be open-minded, we are able to seek the greatest solution. And so if we can do that and be open-minded, we will then create an environment where we're not so judgy, we're not sarcastic, we're not trying to one up one another, and we're really leaning in with some compassion. So two things I would like to offer, you all when it comes to what empathy is. It is, yes, keeping an open mind, but then also very carefully asking thoughtful questions. And so in that document that I shared earlier, I would highly encourage you to go through that and find the ones that gives you the best thoughtful question, but then also that assumes positive intent. Okay? Because there you'll be able to get the true story of what's going on. All right. So team, that's bucket number two. Let's go to bucket number three. In this third bucket, there's a value that we have as an organization. And then also all the people that we employ in our workspace, they also have value as well. And so seeing one another for their perspective, connecting to who they are, letting them know like, hey, I see you, you are important. That there builds a relationship and maintains that relationship. Okay. And so with that, okay, what could this look like? It means that it's like, all right, I'm leaning in so far in acknowledging the people in the space. What will happen as a byproduct is that negative behaviors such as favoritism tend to fall off because we're connecting with everyone. And so having said that, if we can value one another, it shows gratitude, right? It shows a humbleness, it shows a curiosity. And in both of those pieces are deeply invaluable, almost invaluable in the workspace as we're leading diverse groups, as we're connecting with a workspace that is very diverse and has many different generations of people all smushed together. Are you all with me? Hey, team, do me a favor. In the chat, give me a nugget that you've picked up thus far. Is there anything that's landing for you right now that is connecting to your workspace that you're like, hey, you know what? I agree with that. Or, hey, you know what? This is something that I want to use tomorrow. Or, hey, you know what? I need to think through this a little bit more. So do me a favor, use the chat, jump in there, because I wanna check the temperature of the room. So or shout out to Miss Gina Campbell. Hey, put your phone away. Hey, I see you. Like, listen, they're all over the place. All right. Assuming positive intent. This is person-centered therapy. Amen. I see you. Thank you for that. Again, positive intent. All right. I can't wait to use the questions. Hey, they're gold. All right, keep going. I see you. The art of the question. Good, good, good. Because team, this is so. I'm gonna give you a small story while you're putting your thoughts in there about what's going well. Um, During COVID, during the pandemic, I became a super fan of Disney Plus. Now, they're not sponsoring this webinar. I'm not getting paid by them. So, Disney Plus became a major staple in my house, and this is why. It gave me the ability to binge watch all of the Star Wars movies in the franchise. Now, this is why this is important. I bring this up. There was something that was happening within all of those movies that just lit a fire within myself, and it was this. There's a force, whether it's good or evil, that we can use in the workplace to work with people. Now, use the force for good, right? Be the Jedi. So, what can we do with our staff to be the Jedi so that we're able to get to our greatest value as a company? So that they're seen and we're seen as human beings, HR, and also that the company thrives. So, with the resources that you're going to get throughout this webinar, this is our ability to add a page to our book to be the Jedi to work through any issue that we may have in the workspace. Now, this isn't about manipulation. It's not. It's all about connection. Connection over manipulation. Connection over coercion. It's all about connecting and diving in with the people. So again, the three-part issue statement. Thank you. Hey, it's about the work. It's not personal. So thank you for that, for throwing those in there. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Avoid why questions. Shout out to you, Miss Hall. Thank you. So team, as we keep going, let's go here. It's hard, right? To have these types of conversations, to do the work, to sit with somebody, right, who's not on their best day, or maybe we're both not on our best day. That's tough. It's difficult. And so I want to ask you all a question. And again, we're going to go back to our Slido apparatus. So if you have your phone, slide over to the camera, grab that QR code, or go to the website, slido.com, put in MOSHRM. So this is what I want you to do. Imagine a recent difficult conversation. What was the single hardest part about keeping the discussion respectful and productive? What was the single hardest part? What was tough about this? What was difficult, like pulling teeth? What was hard about keeping it productive and keeping it respectful? So jump in there, put in your thoughts. You can put in a couple words, small sentence, go. Excited to see what you think. Excited to see what you say. So imagine that recent difficult conversation. You can use the QR code or jump back in, slido.com, hashtag MOSHRM. All right, do that for me. All right, all right. I see some folks writing dissertations. I like it. I like it. What was the single hardest part? Jump in there. Keeping the discussion respectful and productive. All right, go ahead, team. There you go. I see folks working. I like it. Good, good, good. All right, so as you're putting your thoughts down there, what was the single hardest part about keeping the discussion respectful and productive? All right, jot that in there. Good. All right, I see folks working. All right, once you get to a good place, hit enter, put that in. Good stuff. I like it. Thank you. Got a couple people typing. Nice, nice. All right. 19 or so have logged in to respond. Good, thank you. So imagine a recent difficult conversation. And as you're doing that, um, when it comes to um, working with individuals, just know this, there's this voice that happens between us. And again, thank you all. And I know that some of the answers are coming up. I have to look into that. But thank you, Tim, for putting it in the chat. And so, Tim, I'm gonna look at yours for just a moment. And so, yeah, there are voices within our head that speak a certain volume, right? Some louder than others. But then also, what happens is we have to be present with that individual. So, thank you for putting that in there, Tim. Now, there was a difficult conversation that came up that I needed to have, and this was last week. And what helped us have a substantive conversation was that there we go. Nice. All right. Technology. So what was great about last week's conversation that I needed to have is that it allowed us to be honest and vulnerable with one another. I started it with this. Hey, the story that I'm telling myself is this, right? And this allowed that person to validate, right, my thought and my concern and my feeling, but then also we were able to clear the air and operate on one accord. And so, having said that, and again, some of these are populating. Again, thank you. Practicing the pause when responding. Yes. Listening to respond. Respectful is easy. Productive is hard. Oh my goodness. And you're right. It can be super emotional. Getting past the ego. Oh my goodness. Yes. Man, hey, getting past the title, right? If you're still using the chat, put a hand clap in there. Getting past the title can be tough. Getting individuals to stop talking, listening to others, thank you. Not following into another topic. Ooh, dishonesty. Hey, dishonesty and trust. Can I put those two together? Sometimes we don't have the trust that we need to have the best conversation. Ooh, tone of voice. You can say that again. Listening to the other person. Thank you. Having the person listen to your response. One-sided, lack of listening, closed mind, active. Yes, yes, yes. Attitude. So the way that slide do works, which is phenomenal, is that it gives us the ability to kind of like categorize and to see what, is popping up or bubbling up for all of us. And so sometimes the hardest piece about a difficult conversation is, yes, the emotions that happen, whether they're the person you're sitting across from or yourself and how you are feeling, right? Because you also have a heartbeat yourself. And so with that, keeping the emotions out of a hard conversation is a lion's charge. It's a lion's work. So with that said, there's this feeling where we may feel like we're being attacked. So team, with that, let's go here. When it comes to managing, these emotions and the escalation, how do we do that in real time, right? And these are just some ideas in order for us to, to get to a place where we can make that happen for ourselves is, okay, what do I need to do? What do we need to be mindful of in real time and managing emotions that are going to hit the roof, right? One, if you're noticing a shift in the atmosphere, I would encourage us to pause, but also know that you can validate and connect with someone without fully agreeing with what they're saying, right? And again, there goes the questioning and that work back and forth. Hey, what I heard you say, or can you, walk me through, or where might we go if we were to choose A, B, or C? Now, what's great about working within an organization is that every organization has, hopefully, a value system, they have goals, they have a mission, a vision, all the things. If you go back to that three-part statement, connect that three-part statement to your company shared values, mission, and vision. Because at that point, there's no feelings involved. It's just two people connecting together on whatever the conflict may be that's sitting in the middle. Now, team, these are some ways in which I manage emotional escalation in real time. Um, but here's the thing. At some point, we have to move from there to here. Let's go here. So, yes, I can connect with you. Yes, I can connect with the emotion and not the feeling. But again, we have to hold individuals accountable as HR leaders. Okay. And so, in that questioning phase and understanding phase, lean in, right? Because again, this is a nonverbal behavior. Lean in with curiosity, right? Lead in a space to where we're like, okay, we're going to have some boundaries. We're going to talk about the things. But then again, we're going to connect the issue with some feedback and outline a path forward. Sometimes you can do that with the person you're connected to, or sometimes we just have to make it plain and be objectively transparent, absent emotion. Okay. Because in this space of tenseness, tough conversation, there is a way for us to connect on a path, agree, hold each other accountable for the work that we just agreed to. Okay. So let's connect with another part. With that said, you've identified the issue, you've connected with the individual. All right. We're holding one another accountable. It's about the business outcome, not necessarily about the person, right? But again, how do we sustain a conversation so that it's not, quickly going sideways, right? How do we just make sure that we sustain an environment to where, hey, we're all still together, right? But we have to have a dialogue to where we're both listening and we're both hearing and we're both connecting. And so in order, to do that, just a few really quick tips is that, sometimes you have to set the tone early. Like, hey, the reason why we're here together today is for this reason, right? Frame the conversation as to why we're here. A few other ideas, for us to put this into the spaces as you're chatting with someone, always check the temperature of the room, check the temperature of the conversation, check the temperature of how it's landing for someone, because there may be times where you may have to hit pause, you may have to get a full timeout where we have to reconvene at another time. And again, more often than not, if you have to do that, right? Doesn't happen often, but if you do, when we come back together, cooler heads do prevail. So, with that said, I personally do believe that civility saves lives, right? There's a phrase within the education space where if you don't feed the teachers, they'll eat the kids, right? But having said that, I also believe that to be true about civility, right? If we can just connect together through civil conversations and also this back and forth of discourse, we can reach our greatest heights. We can agree and we can also find resolution. Now, some individuals who may report to us may want agreement on 100% of every conflict that they find. While agreement is great, it's not always necessary. Sometimes we just need to resolve and be actionable and also find accountability. So, something to think about on your drive home for the workplace, maybe for home, is that, you know what? Yes, we can agree, but we can also disagree. And we can also find a resolution that prioritizes the company's value system, their mission, and their vision. So let's practice a little bit. All right, we're doing well on time. So in this practical space, think about this. An employee may feel that HR is shutting down their ideas, during a meeting, saying that HR always enforces rules, right? Those HR people, they're always enforcing rules. They're doing this, they're doing that. So my question for you all, right? Please again use the chat. How would you address this? Let's practice. How would you address this? An employee feels HR is shutting down ideas. How would you address that? Use the chat. All right. They feel like you're the people police. All right. Always enforcing the rules. You use the chat. How would you address this? Hey, thank you for jumping in there. I see you. Um, Explaining the why is huge for me. Okay, I understand. I got you. I got you. All right. Being curious. I see you. All right. Thank you, Miss Amanda. All right. What else? Talk to me. So, there's this stereotype, which again will be a resource I give out at the end, about human resources that we are the people police. How would you work through this? All right. They're always enforcing the rules. All right. Um, Who helps HR when they need help? Ah, beautiful, beautiful. What do you feel like they should be doing? Okay, help me understand. Ah, I see you, Sherry. Encourage them to attend the meetings. All right, connect. All right, surveys. Good. Can you help me understand? Beautiful. And you know what? Here's the thing. I love what everybody is putting in there because it really focuses the idea on like, hey, you know what? There's a story that's being generated in somebody's head and it is screaming. But in order for us to carve through that, yeah, we need to have a conversation. And so something that I've used in the past, which, I will use tomorrow, believe it or not, is this. Hey, can you walk me through your perspective? Can you walk me through this thought, right? This feeling that you have. Again, thank you for this person. Hey, I'm sorry you feel that way. Your ideas are important. I want to understand. And you know what's amazing about that is that, you know what? I can empathize, but I'm not agreeing. All right, let's seek resolution. So that's amazing. So thank you all for doing that. Hey, shout out to Cheryl. So team, I want to be fully transparent with you. Are you ready? Are you ready for this? So on the drive in today, I was thinking about the elephant in the room. And we know that artificial intelligence is something that is prevalent in the workspace, prevalent in the world, prevalent in our personal lives. And I wanted to figure out, like, okay, what would conflict management or resolution look like in the AI space? And again, this is going to sound really weird and nebulous. So if you don't mind, please lean in and stay with me. Okay, stay with me. How can we, as HR professionals, utilize AI to help us with conflict management, conflict resolution, navigating um, incivility in the workplace? How can we use it in that fashion? So that was the question. And so I'm giving that question to you, and I want to show you what I came up with. Are you ready? So, in the spirit of I wanted to know, like, okay, what are like the top five ways in which AI could be used to manage conflict for the HR professional, manage, resolution acquisition for the HR professional. And I came up with these five things, right? One of them is predictive conflict detection, behavioral patterns, or looking for patterns, skill development and training, okay, streamlining support, and then also like looking for bias, right? Maybe AI could help us reduce bias, right? So again, I just want to share with you a thought that I came up with, and then in a moment, I'll have you jump into the chat and tell me what you think. So, again, this sounds like dangerous waters that I'm about to jump into, but I want to be transparent and say, like, hey, maybe, right? So, here we go. So, out of this list, I chose two things I wanted AI to help me with. And again, these two things I chose could be very dangerous: predictive conflict detection, and then also streamlining resolution support. And again, this you're probably thinking to yourself, Diggs, what are you doing? But stick with me, stay with me. Here we go. So, with those two things, how can AI help us with that? And so here we go. I wanted to bring two sides of the brain together to help us with human conflict in the workplace, looking at those two parameters. And so this is what I did. I chose to create a prompt, right? So imagine that the goal is for us to be a BRA, behavioral risk analyst. So you are an analyst analyzing risk behavior. All right. The context in which we're operating within is that I wanted this analyst to analyze a certain quarter for employee interaction data. All right. So I'm looking for hotspots in the data. I'm a behavioral analyst. I'm also going to input certain data into the system to help me understand, like, hey, where are the hotspots? Now, I'm gonna pause there for just a moment. Yes, I'm talking about artificial intelligence, but it only works well when you put a human next to it, human intelligence. So I'm inputting some data, I'm building some context. The goal is that I want to analyze behavior, but then again, I know me, I want the output to look a certain way. I want to look at the top three places this is happening. I want to understand, hey, what are some recommendations to work through some risk, but then what are some ideas for me as the HR professional to monitor the plan and navigating risky behavior that leads to conflict? Okay, are you with me? So this is the prompt that I was able to create to analyze the data. And so this is what I got. After I did all that, I gave it a scenario and then I also gave it the data. Okay. And again, I'll share all this with you because this could be a lot. In the spirit of using our tools to mitigate conflict in the workplace, here's the background. There's a project team of about 12 people, cross-functional. There's engineering folks, marketing folks, product folks, and they are tasked with launching a new high-profile, high-stress product. And they are 6 months into an 18th month timeline, right? So that's the background. There's some organizational context. There was a leadership change in there somewhere, a conflict map that's in there. But then here's the data. You all see it? I'm analyzing quarter three average. I'm looking at volatility, meeting attendance, PTO spikes, and then also tasks, whether they were rejected tasks or handed off to somebody else, like all the things, right? So I'm taking the background, I have the data. I just want to understand, like, hey, where might there be conflict arise? And then, hey, what might be the best way to work through that, right? Trying to use the human aspect. Let me show you what I was able to pull out. And it is this. As an HR leader, as I put in these things, the AI, they will probably flag three things. One, high volatility, low sentiment. They also may flag behavioral indicators as well as like, hey, you know what? There's some friction that's happening. And so then as we move forward in the space, this is what it generated for me as like, hey, you know what, Diggs? You might want to work with your team in this way. So these were the top three risk teams. All right. The primary indicator was volatility and disengagement, right? It was with my project team. But then again, what are some recommendations, right? Hey, how about some workshops on psychological safety, feedback? Maybe one of the biggest issues that is arising is a lack of transparent communication. Focus on, disengagements, right? Be constructive, be objective. Let's work together and how we can make this better for everyone. And then how about some 360 feedback for the new leader? Maybe they don't know what they don't know. Again, confidentiality is important. Now, another thing to kind of like just, piece through, again, this is human human intelligence because all of you are highly successful, very experienced, highly credentialed individuals that work physically with people. But my wondering as I was driving in today was, is there a way to use our expertise and technology to better support and connect with our people, right? And again, it sounds gray and murky. I'm totally with you. So team, do me a favor. I'm gonna take a real quick pause and we have a little bit of time to do this. Hey, jump into the chat for me real quick. Share your thought. Share a brief nugget, a thought. Again, the AI piece, could be viewed very quickly as dangerous. But I wanted to know, like, all right, is there a way for us to continue to leverage our human creativity, our human curiosity, our human collaboration, our human critical thinking to continue to elevate our organization. But what if technology can help us just a little bit further understand the best place and where to go? What do you think? You use the chat. And again, I used the framing of the behavioral analyst because we're navigating and looking at the behaviors of a group of people through the data that we've collected as HR professionals. So again, share a thought, jump into the chat, let me know what you think. Go. I see you, Gina. I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you. All right. Hey, you bring up a really great point. Not many places can use, AI, or maybe they're slowly forming AI committees. Totally with you. And again, I'm just sharing an idea. Please don't take this as gospel, if you will. Just a thought. Just a thought. Just think about it. Just think about it. So as you're jumping into the chat again, Ms. Schultz, hey, you know what? Very open. And again, it creates an environment where it's forcing us to think differently, to broaden our perspective. And again, this was something I wanted to just fly out there, to you all as we're working towards navigating difficult spaces, working with individuals. Like, okay, is there a way for us to use technology to be proactive? Right? That's the goal. Jessica, AI has increased the quality of our documentation and interventions. Hey, absolutely. I've seen other people, and this was shared with me in a different place and space, is that their HR department took all of their job descriptions and then took their hiring forms and documents, and they used it in a way to figure out and see if there were policies and processes that they were using on a day-to-day basis that othered people or created a bias atmosphere. And so like that's something that they have used it for. And again, great tool. This needs to be done with caution in some situations. Hey, 1,000%, 1,000%. Use with caution, think through it. Again, it only works best when you couple it with human intelligence. And so, team, I'm about to land the plane in just a moment. And so, if you leave here with anything, leave with this: navigating difficult conversations, or having a civil dialogue, or having civil discourse. It takes all of us collectively together, to do it. And it also allows us to continue to evolve humanity in a way to where we're active listening, where we're also being empathetic, to one another, valuing who they are, and also listening and connecting to their perspective. And so, if we can do all of that, then we're going to bat 1,000. So, just a few really quick things. If you want to continue to stay connected, starting in December, the first Monday in December, I'm going to start a text campaign, if you will. Well, I'll be sending nuggets of encouragement, nuggets of wisdom, all the things, for leaders, every Monday of the month. And so here's a sign up for that, if you want to be connected. Also, I am super active on LinkedIn. So let's connect on LinkedIn. I share blogs and other posts, in that space. Definitely jump into that as well. So I don't do this often, but I did write a blog for this presentation. And so I want to give that to you here. You can find it there. Um, don't include anything from Star Wars. I gotcha. And then also, for those of you that wanted the slides, I want to give you the slides as well. No, you're good. I'm with you, Paul. So, team, here are the slides. If you have, any, thoughts, leaving today, please let me know. Let's definitely connect. Now, I do see that we have about 2 minutes. So, Miss Cecily, are there any questions that you've collected that you want to talk about?
I don't know. We don't have any in the Q&A at the moment, but I do have a question if you all need a little time to drop it in there. What do you feel like has been the most successful tool that you've used for your civil conversations you've had in St. Louis?
Oh, I would say two things if I can
Hmm.
cheat and give you two.
Hmm.
The first is that document on questions. So for example, and there's many versions of this. Brene Brown has a great version. She calls them rumble starters, which is a way to start a conversation. But in the ones that I dropped in the chat, a little bit earlier, I use mine faithfully and I have it highlighted because there's some that are just more personal for me. One that I don't think I mentioned, in this group was um, uh, help me understand your view on this. Help me understand your perspective because again, the issue may be that I'm not in that person's shoes to fully understand the gravity of the situation. And so I use that question often to kind of like help me understand where people are. So that was
Yeah.
good question. Good question.
That is really great. So we are just about at at time. And I know you've given out your contact information. So if you are interested in continuing this conversation, Daryl is extremely easy to get a hold of and very easy to talk to, and you can continue it in that way. We appreciate you so much for joining us during this time. This has been really awesome. I love all of the resources that you've given us. And one thing that really, really stood out to me was how you modeled, including people in the conversation by saying, team, hey, team, we're doing this. Hey, team, what do you think about this? And that even using the language kind of shares, hey, we're on the same team. Let's get through this conversation that we're having. So once again, I thank you for presenting to us. I thank you all for joining us today. And we will see you again. We will send out the codes for SHRM and HRCI. So if you're looking for that, keep an eye out in your email. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. See y'all.